Start, I'll share it on Facebook.
All right. All right. It looks like we're back up and running, and yep, we are.
Cool.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
Sharing on Facebook.
All right. Looks like the
Share
stream
it.
is strong, so that's good.
Share it on my personal page. All right. Close out Facebook. And there we are.
Oh yeah, everything's running much smoother now. That's good. All right.
Well, shall we?
We shall. All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Do you like the show and you want to help support us? Do you want us to stay ad-free? Do you want extra episodes every month? Well, of course you do. Then head over to patreon.com/nerdcaveretro and become a Patreon supporter of this very show. It is still Halloween Horror Month here at the Nerd Cave Retro Show, and my name is Jason Spooktacular Robbins.
I am Derek, not so scary Diamond.
So we have to start off the show by talking about the 800-pound Star Wars bantha in the room.
Nice.
The trailer
So
dropped last
I
night.
actually have a an interesting side story to that before we actually get to the thoughts on the trailer. So the Star Wars trailer premiered last night during Monday Night Football. Now the caveat to that was that tickets were going to go on sale right after the trailer aired. It was going to air during halftime. So I had to work a high school football game last night, and the interesting thing about that is that the game was on a Monday because we had a tropical storm here on Friday that caused a lot of games to be moved to Saturday. Some people play their games on Thursday. Anyway, the game that I worked was on Monday. So I'm checking my phone to see like how far it is into the game on ESPN. It gets to halftime of the high school game I'm working. So I check and there's about 4 to 5 minutes left in the first half of the Jets Patriots game. And just off chance, I decide, let me look at AMC to see if they might have released the tickets early. And sure enough, they did.
Wow.
So I'm like, oh, sweet. I can go ahead and get my tickets now that, I won't have to be distracted by it. So I open up the 6 o'clock showing because we have an IMAX theater here. And I find a set of 4 seats, click on them, not available. So I'm like, all right. So I see another set of 4 seats. So I click on those, not available. Then I look at the third row of the entire theater. I don't know if you've ever sat in one of the first 3 rows during an IMAX movie, but it is not fun.
Awful.
So I do the same thing, not available.
Ugh.
The entire 6 o'clock showing was already sold out.
Damn.
I was not too pleased, if you can imagine, because here you are, you're advertising that, hey, the tickets will be available after the trailer airs on TV. So they got a little antsy, and they released the tickets early. Now, I did get a showing for that night, but it's not the very first one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep checking every now and then to see if somebody might refund their tickets or whatever. But worst case scenario, I mean, I'm gonna be seeing it opening night. It's just gonna be at like 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, same here. I got a showing for the 7 o'clock showing on day one. So
Yeah, mine's at I think 9:45. So you'll be just getting out of the theater, I think, as I'm getting in.
And I'll text you everything that happens before you go in. So,
Please don't. No lie, I think if that were to happen, I would be waiting outside your apartment when you got back.
I'll make up some fake spoilers to send
Oh
to you.
no, I've got this whole plan because I took my parents to go see The Force Awakens when it came out, and this was like 3 days after it premiered.
Mhm.
We're waiting outside the theater, and some jackass drives by in his truck and yells, "Han Solo dies" to everyone. So I've decided what I'm gonna do is when 6 o'clock hits, I'm not gonna look at my phone.
Yeah.
And when I go in the theater, I'm gonna be wearing my AirPods with music playing.
Mhm.
I know that might sound a bit extreme, but
Yeah, I'm just
when
gonna
you've been a
go.
victim of it,
Yeah,
you can't take any chances.
I'm gonna be like you. I'm gonna go on a full media blackout, pretty much for that
Y-
entire day, probably.
Yeah, because somebody's gonna release something.
Yeah.
That always happens. But anyway, I'll quit complaining. Let's talk about the trailer.
So I got to last night. I was doing a comedy show in Mobile when the trailer was released. So I got to see it on the TV, but I didn't get to see it with sound because it was a kind of a bar slash restaurant, and they didn't have the sound of the TVs on. It just had subtitles. So I got to watch it with subtitles, but I didn't get to hear it until this morning because you had texted me this morning and asked me if I'd seen the trailer. I said yes, but I haven't seen it with sound. So as soon as I saw it with sound, I sent you a text message and I was like, holy shit. That music. I got to have that music.
Oh, so they did a revised version of the Star Wars theme.
Hmm.
No lie, the first time I heard it, it gave me goosebumps.
Oh,
It
always.
was that good. I will give them this.
I want to say hi to
I
Randy
expect
Bailey, who just joined us in the chat room. Hi, Randy.
Yeah, shout out to Randy Bailey. He says he loves the game that I'm going to be reviewing, so
Awesome.
excited for that. Um so similar to you, like I watched the trailer on my phone, but I couldn't really see or hear it very well. Like I had my AirPods in, but with the noise going on at the stadium, I couldn't really hear it that well.
Yeah.
So I said I'll just watch it when I get home. And I watched it 5 times,
Yeah, I've watched it
back to
three or
back to
four.
back.
So let's kind of break down the trailer. I mean, we're not going to do a whole show. We're just going to talk about it for a few minutes. But kind of, what was some of your moments from the trailer that got you excited?
Well, I think the biggest one is obviously the tease of Palpatine.
Hmm.
You don't actually see him, but you hear his laugh and you see like an over the shoulder shot of him looking down at Rey. And it's the same, hood and cloak that he's been wearing.
You see the throne as well from
Yeah, you
Death
see the
Star 2.
throne. My favorite shot of the whole thing was Rey and Kylo Ren in the Emperor's old throne room from
Yeah.
the Death Star. Like that was just, oh, it gave me chills.
My favorite shot of the entire thing is you see the Millennium Falcon in front of like a fleet of, I guess,
Yeah.
rebel ships, and you see the Ghost behind the Millennium Falcon. And I was trying to look through all the different ships and see if there were any other Easter eggs in there. So if you've ever seen the Rebels, the TV show, the Ghost is the name of their ship, and it's literally right behind the Millennium Falcon. So it's like, ooh,
That's some
there
good
it
fan
is.
service.
Yeah. So and another, I'm worried that 3PO is going to get a mind wipe.
That would suck.
I think that's what's going to happen.
Well, Randy Bailey says in the chat, I got choked up at the C3O as the C3PO part. I can't talk tonight, where he said friends. Damn
Yeah.
you shiny bastard.
Yeah, I read some kind of a possible spoiler. I don't. Something had to do with the 3PO sacrifices himself. That's why we see him with red eyes in the original trailer, because they do a mind wipe on him so that he can do something with I think they find a part of a Sith droid or something like that that he plugs himself into, and to get some information. And I don't know. I think it does a memory wipe, a complete memory wipe on C-3PO.
Not again.
Yeah.
At least for him. I didn't even think about that. That could definitely be a possibility
But
because
this
I've
is the
seen
Star Wars universe.
the
Couldn't
picture
they?
of him with red eyes.
Couldn't I mean they had? Don't they have thumb drives? They could like download 3PO's like conscience into a thumb drive to save it, and then put it back in later. I don't know. I'm just thinking outside the box here. I mean, they live in a world of lightsabers. So
But it's also, to quote the beginning of every film, a long time ago.
yeah,
So maybe they haven't been invented yet.
maybe they're still using 8-inch floppies.
Yeah, that would actually be really funny.
You saw that news
Um,
article today, didn't you, where the government just upgraded from 8-inch floppy disks that our nuclear arsenal was attached to?
oh my God,
Yeah, we were still
that's not
using 8-inch
surprising.
floppy drives for our nuclear launch codes. That's awesome.
That's a whole separate
Yeah,
topic.
I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, but all in all, I really really enjoyed the trailer, and I'm happy that they didn't really give too much away. I figured they might reveal Palpatine or reveal something at the very end because
Yeah.
I remember one of the trailers for Force Awakens that ended with the shot of Han and Chewie,
And Billy
and that
D's
made
back,
everybody
baby.
freak out.
Yeah. I think they're going to have some Force Ghost stuff going on, too.
Well, I think that last shot of Rey, you could see her start to smile right before it cuts the logo. I could
Yeah.
see that being not just Luke, but maybe some Force ghosts from the previous films. How awesome would a Ewan McGregor Obi-Wan Force ghost be?
No. How many hours do we have left now? How many days, hours, minutes,
Too
seconds?
long, just under 2 months.
What body part would you cut off right now if you could watch the Rise of Skywalker, but you have to sacrifice a body part?
Well, I mean, if it's my choice, I'll say my left pinky toe.
Yeah, I would give him my left kidney because that's my bad one. Because I could get to watch
That's a
Star
good
Wars
one.
and never have to have kidney stones again. So it's a win-win for me.
Yeah.
So you hear that, Disney? I'll give you a kidney if you let me watch it right now.
Uh, it's going to be a long 2 months. And I think especially the last week or two before the movie comes out when they really amp up the TV advertisement.
Oh yeah. Even Randy
Because I
says
remember
you would think R2 would have a backup copy of C3PO. Really?
he's the only one who remembers everything from episode 1 all the way to now.
For real?
Oh, so I mentioned this before we started recording, but my theory on how Palpatine comes back to life, I think it involves Rey and Kylo in some way. I don't know exactly what, but he even mentions in the trailer that your coming together will be
Mm-hmm.
your undoing.
Hmm.
And they haven't explained quite yet the link between Rey and Kylo that they got in The Last Jedi.
Hmm.
So I could see them being crucial to like Palpatine fully coming back to life, like with full power.
Yeah.
Because I could see him either being in a very weakened state
Maybe
or not being alive when the movie starts.
maybe Kylo goes to the light, and because he goes to the light, there's no more dark side users. So the dark side brings back Palpatine to balance things out. I don't know. It's
Could be.
a little bit out there, but you never know.
I think those two though are somehow crucial to Palpatine. Like he needs them for something.
Yeah.
I don't know what yet, but I think it has a lot to do with that.
Well, we'll find out in 2 months.
I know,
Two
I
whole months.
cannot wait.
I better not die before then. If I die, I'm gonna be pissed.
That would suck.
Yeah. Hmm.
But no, like I said, we've got just under 2 months because we're recording this on the 22nd and it comes out technically on the 19th
Mm-hmm.
that night. So we'll see what happens.
A little less than 2 months from now.
Yeah.
All right.
Then
Well.
we'll have to do a full because I know for those who also listen to my podcast, we did a Marvel Cinematic Universe like retrospective with us two plus Steve Wise and Wally Phelps, and then we came back and did a review for Endgame. I'd like to do something similar to that, where maybe the week before we release like a retrospective on Star Wars just in general.
Yeah.
And then once we all see Rise of Skywalker, we come back and do like a full on dissection of it, where we think the franchise will go from there.
I'm down for that. I could talk about Star Wars all night.
Oh, same. Like this could be a full Star Wars episode of the podcast, but we do have some other things to talk about too.
Yes, we do. So let's go ahead and move into the news, shall we? I saw this thing pop up on Twitter and Facebook a few days ago. It looks pretty cool. This is on NintendoLife.com. Who needs a Game Boy Classic Edition when you've got the Analog Pocket? Hardware specialist Analog is famous for its reference quality clones of retro systems and has already made a name for itself with products like the Super NT and Mega SG, both of which harness FPGA technology to replicate the performance of classic systems on a hardware level. The company has revealed its next project, and it's even more ambitious in scope. The Analog Pocket is, as the name suggests, a portable FPGA-based system which is compatible with the entire Game Boy library, over 2,700 Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance titles, boasting a pin-sharp 3.5-inch 1600 by 1440 pixel LTPS LCD display, which Analog is calling the most advanced seen on any gaming system. The Analog Pocket will make those vintage games look incredible. It also comes with its own built-in sequencer and synthesizer called Nano Loop, and includes a second FPGA chip, which is aimed at developers who want to port their own cores to the system. And so I was reading up a little bit about that FPGA system. It's sort of, you can use the original cartridges with it, and what it does is basically sort of just kind of down, I guess I don't really understand it, but it basically emulates the game from the ROM itself on the cartridge. So it's sort of like a little kind of a ROM downloader almost, I guess. It's kind of how they get around copyright issues with like Nintendo and stuff like that. So it's
That's
really
brilliant.
just an emulator, like an emulation machine.
Yeah. So I have a good opinion and a bad opinion about this. The good opinion is I think this is awesome. It looks great. There's a screen cap on here of Tetris being played, and it's basically like in full color.
Yeah.
And it looks awesome. The bad side of this, and it's in the very last sentence of this whole article.
I know.
The Analog Pocket launches in 2020 and will cost $199. The pricing for the dock and cartridge adapters is yet to be revealed.
That's a lot.
So it ain't cheap.
No.
If this thing were 100, sign me up
Yeah.
in a heartbeat.
But
Like,
here's
I
the
would
thing.
love this, but
You'll be able to play not only. I think you're going to be able to play other systems with it too. If I'm not if I'm oh, let's see. Hold on. Using special adapters, you'll also be able to play Atari Lynx, Sega Game Gear, and SNK Neo Geo Pocket Color titles on the machine. So it's sort of like having a Retron, like a little tiny Retron in your pocket.
yeah. I think if you still have a collection of your handheld games, it would definitely be worth it.
Yeah.
But someone like me who didn't save all their Game Boy games or Game Gear, I'd essentially have to rebuy all these games in order to get, the full experience. Plus, I'm already paying $200 for the Analog Pocket. Now, I'm not knocking it. I think it's great.
I think
It looks fantastic.
if you're really into collecting Game Boy stuff, this is a must-have, honestly.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But
But it looks really cool though.
to be perfectly honest, I mean, I would love to have one, but you can go get a Super Game Boy if you have a Super Nintendo. Go get a Super Game Boy and still, play your Game Boy games in color on your TV. So I mean, this thing costs almost pretty much as much as a. Isn't this the same price as a Switch Lite?
I think so.
It's $199, I think, and same price as that. Like I said, unless you're pretty much a hardcore Game Boy collector, I don't really know who this is for.
Well, and I missed this point too. A special dock will also be available, which allows you to output your games to a TV and charge the
Yeah.
console in the process. You'll also be able to use Bluetooth or wired controllers for input.
I mean,
So
that's cool.
that's interesting.
I mean, it's got a lot of perks to it. I don't know. We'll see when it comes out if maybe if the price drops or we'll see what happens with it. We'll keep
Yeah,
our
like I
eye
said,
on
if
it.
this were 100, I would get it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I think the 199, even at 150's pushing it, but at the $200 price point, that's a little high.
Yeah. Our next story also comes to us from NintendoLife.com. Castlevania's harder arcade version is now available on Nintendo Switch. Hamster has revealed that the next Arcade Archives release to launch on Switch is none other than Versus Castlevania. You'll be able to get your hands on it starting on October 17th, which was 5 days ago.
Mhm.
The game was originally released as an arcade title back in 1986 and is very similar to the NES game, which launched the year after. Retrogamer notes that the most notable difference between the two is its difficulty. This Versus variant is considerably harder, with some enemies dealing double the damage they do on Nintendo's platform. Although other differences can also be found in areas such as the game's color palette. So, I know you're a big Castlevania fan.
I don't
Is
need it
this
to
something
be
you'll play?
harder. Honestly, no. I mean, I just put this in here because it's a Castlevania story, but at the same time, after I read the article, I was like, I don't need it to be harder than it already is.
Yeah,
Castlevania
it's
is
already
already a
hard.
brutally hard game. Like, why would I need it to be any harder? Like, who is this for?
People with issues.
Like speedrunners who are trying. I don't know.
Yeah, speedrunners that are looking for a new challenge.
Yeah,
That, and I think just like really diehard Castlevania fans who have to have every single game in their collection.
yeah. And I'm a diehard Castlevania fan, but I don't need everything. And like, honestly, I don't like looking at the screenshots. I don't see much of a difference between this and the NES version.
No.
I mean, it's very slight differences.
And it says here that if you are interested in getting it, it's at the usual arcade archives pricing of $7.99,
Yeah, it's not bad.
which is no, it's not a bad price, but it's not one that I'm going to pick up.
Yeah,
I think it's cool that they're releasing it just for the ones who, like I said, like to have every game in their collection when it comes to a certain franchise.
yeah.
But I won't be getting it.
I mean, I would recommend the Castlevania collection over this. I mean, for 20
Yes.
bucks, you get like a ton of Castlevania games, including the original NES Castlevania, which is plenty hard enough. Trust me.
Yeah.
This is from SuperheroHype.com, a game that I reviewed not too long ago, and a company we've been talking about a lot lately. Limited Run announces the release date for Star Wars Racer games. Earlier this year, Limited Run Games partnered up with Lucasfilm to re-release several classic Star Wars games. So far, the successful run has included several NES, SNES, and Nintendo 64 releases. But now, the company is literally shifting in high gear with two Star Wars racing titles that go on sale later this week. They announced the latest titles on Twitter. The first is Star Wars Episode 1 Racer for Nintendo 64. The new version has a special blue cartridge design. Gamers can buy it starting October 18th. Unfortunately, it's only available in limited numbers. Let's see. I was trying to look for a price, but they don't have it on here. They're also re-releasing Star Wars Racer Revenge, which arrived on the PlayStation 2 in 2002. Game received a digital release on the PlayStation 4 in 2016. However, this marks the first time it will get a physical release for PS4 consoles. It will also be released on that Friday. But there's no price for it or anything. I imagine it's probably at least 70, 80 bucks probably.
Let's see. Standard version of Star Wars Racer Revenge is priced at $29.99, while Episode 1 Racer's Classic Edition costs $44.99.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
Let's
Oh,
see.
I
The
love the
collect.
packaging. Did you see this? I didn't even see this.
Yeah, it's packaged like the classic Star Wars action figures
Mm-hmm.
from back in the day, which
Oh,
is awesome. Like
I
I
want to
had
get
so
it
many
just
of
for
those.
that. That is awesome.
Yeah, the art's amazing. Of course, diehard Star Wars fans will most likely pursue the collector's editions for each title. The The premium edition for Episode 1 Racer costs $89.99 and comes with a collectible pin and coin, a full color manual, and a special edition box.
Oh, I didn't even see this update. Yeah. Wow. It's not a bad price for this. I mean, just for that packaging alone, I would have this.
Yeah, it looks so cool.
It's so awesome.
And then Racer's Revenge Premium Edition retails for $74.99.
Yeah, I have Racer's Revenge on the PS4.
Comes packaged in a specially designed box featuring a pod racing vehicle on the front, embossed in yellow and gray. It also includes a collectible steelbook case and a limited edition poster.
All right, I got to get off this page before I buy that Racer because I'm just staring at it hardcore.
One day, I'm gonna pull the trigger on one of those releases.
I know limited runs kind of killing it lately with all the
No, they really
releases
are
they're doing. The thing is, they're not putting out many of each one because it's a niche market, but but the stuff that they're making is just top notch, man.
Well, they're living up to their name, limited run.
Yeah.
And our last story is crazy, as I feel like it was forever ago this was announced.
I know.
This comes to us from hotnewwhiphop.com. I almost couldn't say that, but I made it through. New images of redesigned Sonic the Hedgehog emerges. We all remember what went down when the first trailer for Sonic the Hedgehog's live-action movie was unveiled by Paramount Pictures. Mostly everyone was left wondering what the actual F when they got a first look at what their beloved blue speedster looked like. I remember I ripped that to shreds on this show. After much backlash, controversy, and roast, the producers and directors behind the film have chosen to ditch its initial release date in order to rework the titular character's overall look. As such, Jeff Howler, the movie's director, has spoken out to the hate by announcing the Hedgehog's appearance will be completely redesigned and the movie was pushed to 2020. And now photos of the new Sonic have leaked and the changes are significant, to say the least. So basically these two photos that look like, someone took a picture of a computer screen and posted them on Twitter.
Yeah.
Because you can even see the mouse cursor between Sonic's ears on one of them, which is pretty funny.
I see that.
I will say like this, Sonic. The redesign is a lot better.
Yeah, it is.
As in 100% better. He looks very accurate to how he looks, in the games.
Yeah.
It's just his quills look realistic, which I figured they would do for a live action or even a CG movie anyway. You can't expect that he's going to look exactly the same as he does in the games.
Yeah,
but
he just looks so much better.
Yeah.
Even if he's going to be surrounded by actual human beings, he still looks a lot better.
Yeah. It does make me wonder if any of the other, like, quote-unquote Sonic characters are going to appear. Like Tails, Knuckles, any of the other, like, anthropomorphic animal characters. I assume they'll at least make a cameo, but I could see it being fairly Sonic-heavy.
Well, I have a feeling that the Dr. Robotnik, Jim Carrey character is going to probably create, like, Knuckles and Tails maybe in a lab or something.
That would be actually an interesting twist. I do think that at some point they are going to go to Sonic's planet. Because in the very last shot of the trailer, you see Jim Carrey has the traditional Robotnik look. He has bald head, huge mustache, but you can see giant mushrooms in the background, and the sky looks kind of like a pinkish type color. So I was thinking, I bet that he follows Sonic back to his world, and the process changes his look.
That's probably pretty accurate.
Now, as much as I will praise them for the redesign, I still don't have faith that it's going to be a good movie.
Maybe it'll just be good popcorn fun. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not looking for, a cinematic masterpiece like the Joker. I just want a good, fun popcorn Sonic movie.
Maybe you're right. Maybe I have just too high of expectations for this thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm definitely going to go see it. Like, I'm not going to come on the show or even go on Facebook and say, oh, I'll never see this movie. I'm going to go see it when it comes out in the theater because I'm a fan.
Yeah.
And I am very curious about it, and I want it to be good. I want it to be a fun movie.
I really don't think it's going to be Super Mario Brothers level bad, but it's got to be better than that. that's that's all you can hope for.
Yeah. If it is that bad, then we have to do a commentary for it, and I will get completely plastered beforehand.
Yeah, and I don't care what anybody says. I thought Pixels was a good movie, so at least if it's as good as Pixels for me, I'll be happy.
I actually haven't seen Pixels.
You never saw that? I actually thought it was pretty good, but I'm
It looked
crazy.
like a fun movie.
I like stuff that nobody else likes anyway, so we're gonna have a
Well, I remember critics ripped it apart, but it's not really a movie that critics are going to like.
yeah. I mean, it's like we got our Halloween episodes coming up, and I have a sneaking suspicion that me and Joey Image are going to go head to head on whether or not Halloween 3 is a good movie.
Does that mean I have to be the tiebreaker?
Yep.
Cool. I'll to use a wrestling term, I'll play referee.
Awesome. Don't tell me anything until we get to the show. So I don't want to know how you feel about it. I don't want to talk about
No,
it until the show.
no, I'm not going to say a single word about it.
Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and move into this month in video game history. On October 1983, Casio launches the Casio PV1000 in Japan. It does not remain on the market for long. Let's see what this bad boy looks like.
Oh boy.
Ooh, that is 80s as hell.
Looking at the title of the console, it made me think of the name of a vacuum cleaner.
Yeah. And it was only 13 games were released for it.
Yikes.
Super Cobra. That sounds cool.
Well, it had Dig Dug.
Yeah, Dig Dug. Space Panic. Ooh, Naughty Boy.
Oh my.
Oh my. I thought that said Pikachu UFO, but it's Pachinko UFO.
That's a little bit before Pikachu's time.
Yeah. Like
If you're if you don't get enough of Naughty Boy, you have the Dirty Chameleon.
Yeah. Ooh. Are these porn names or are they game names?
Well, before this gets into a really bad place, in October of 1984, Nyan Falcom releases action role-playing game Dragon Slayer.
I remember the movie. I don't remember the game.
I wonder if you slay dragons.
I'm sure you do.
The poster looks really cool.
That does look cool. That was like like an 80s heavy metal album cover.
Yeah, I was thinking that or like a comic book cover, or like the cover of Heavy Metal magazine.
Yeah. It's exactly what it looks like.
That's cool. I actually really like that cover.
I want to make a band, call it Dragon Slayer, and use that as the album cover.
They could be the lead-in band to Falls from Grace.
Yeah. Or Dragon Force. We can go on tour with Dragon Force.
Oh, that'd be great.
October 6th of 1990, Sega's Game Gear Color handheld is released in Japan. It is launched in North America in 91 and Europe and Australia in 92. It's crazy how everything was like years apart back then.
Yeah, it's the same way with just games in general, because I remember games would come out in Japan first, then a couple of months later they'd come out in the States, and then like 2 years later Europe would get them. I always felt bad for Europe.
Oh, the Game Gear was discontinued in 97. I thought it went longer than that.
Yeah, I did too. Now, I like the Game Gear, but as I've mentioned several times, just the short battery life was so bad. I can remember having it, at my grandparents' lake house in Tallahassee, and I would have to lay on the floor with the Game Gear plugged into the wall so I could actually play it because the batteries would last like 15 minutes.
Ugh, that sucks. Oh,
Yeah,
I remember
it was
this
awful.
little peripheral for it. If you scroll down, I see the TV tuner plug in.
Oh, look at that thing.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Not only can you play your games, but you can get network television.
Ooh, it had a display resolution of 160 by 144 pixels, baby.
Heck yeah. If we really wanted to dive into the retro aspect of the show, we should decrease the audio quality.
Yeah.
and just make it really bad, like you've been listening to it like on like an 80s TV.
No, we should just stop the podcast online, and you have to get it through us on video on no on audio cassette. You have to mail order it from us by check, and you get it in 6 to 8 weeks.
Oh, we can make like a really cheesy infomercial for it too.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome.
Only 1995.
Oh man, what was the name of that? Wally even had the name of it when we did the wrestling show. The ones back in the day who would do all the different like order video cassettes.
Oh,
What were
geez,
they
what was it?
called?
He's yelling at us right
Yeah,
now
he
as he's
is.
listening to
I
this.
can't remember the name of it.
Oh, what was it?
I keep thinking Time Life Books present, but it's not time. It's Fun House, not Fun House. What the hell was it? Oh, come on, brain.
And so they released all the old wrestling like VHS tapes.
Yeah, they did stuff like that and like different things. Like they would, yeah, you could mail order, and they would have.
Is it Time Life?
It's not Time Life. It's something else. It's like a smaller company, but and they used to do all like you would see the commercials all day, every day, like selling stuff.
Uh, I think I might have it.
What was it?
Is it Coliseum Video?
I think that might be it. Coliseum Video.
Yeah, because I'm seeing an article: 15 greatest WWE VHS tapes released by Coliseum Home
I
Video.
think that's it. Yeah, but I thought I could have swore it was something else though. Maybe I'm just not thinking straight. There were so
Oh,
many of those things. Like there was always the Time Life one. Time Life Books presents Louis L'Amour collection, or like shit like that.
Randy
I'm
Bailey
so
says
old.
yep, so I assume that either
Okay,
Time Life or Coliseum is correct.
yeah, probably Coliseum.
On October 1st of 1995, Square releases Secret of Evermore for the SNES.
I remember this
Back when
game.
Square had a great relationship with Nintendo. This was one of the many RPGs that came out for the Super Nintendo around that time. I know I reviewed this on the show years ago. It might have been
Yeah,
like within the first 20 or 25 episodes.
I remember this was one of the games that was complete in box that the guy at the flea market wanted to sell me, along with a couple other in the box RPGs for the Super Nintendo. He wanted like $250 for all of them, and I was like, I can't do that right now.
Yeah. This game was a lot of fun. Yeah, I felt like it kind of got swept under the rug because you had other good RPGs like, Earthbound and Secret of Mana and other games like that. Like there are a lot of really good RPGs for the Super Nintendo that came out around that time that didn't quite get the credit that others did. And this was one of them. And I remember us having the debate. They should have taken the secret of out of the title and just called it Evermore
Yeah,
to make it kind of differentiate itself from Secret of Mana, which the gameplay is very similar, but it's not a sequel or even take place in that universe.
yeah,
But still a good game, though.
yeah. Let's see, where were we at? October 31st of 1996, WWF in Your House is released for the PlayStation and Sega Saturn. I do not remember this game.
This was a little bit before my time when it came to playing wrestling games.
I don't even remember this at all.
It says here, In Your House is not a wrestling game in the normal sense, as it is heavily influenced by Mortal Kombat. It features digitized sprites of the wrestlers and many over-the-top, unrealistic, and magical moves and taunts by the wrestlers. Also features finishing moves which are performed before the final pin. It also featured personalized stages for each wrestler, such as a nightclub for Shawn Michaels, Stu Hart's dungeon for Bret Hart, and a crypt for The Undertaker.
Wow.
Randy says that's where you can be the British Bulldog and his head turned into a dog's head.
Oh,
That's
awesome.
interesting. Which, speaking of that, I'll have to send you the photo after the show, but WWE, now I will preface this by saying I would in no way pay for the amount of money that they're asking for this, but it looks really cool. They released a custom-made Undertaker Championship belt,
How much
and it
does that
looks really
cost?
cool. It's got like a purple strap, and it comes in a box that's shaped like a coffin.
That's awesome. How much
I'll
does
have to
that
send you the
cost?
photo. It's really cool.
How much does that cost?
Uh, $750.
Jesus.
Yeah.
No thanks. Woo.
Now, as great as it looks, in no way would I pay that amount of money. Like, I've never been one to get like the replica belts. I mean, I had the toy ones when I was a kid,
Yeah.
but that's different. Those were like $10. When
Yeah.
I see the, like, I always envy the guys who walk around, like, whenever I go to a wrestling show, who carry the, the big, like, full size
Yeah.
championship belt. Cause I
I
think I would love to be able to have the money to just say, yeah, I'll spend $350 on that.
I think if you carry a belt to a wrestling show, you should have to defend it.
See, what you do is you always bring a friend along and they wear a referee shirt
Oh
and you
yeah.
just challenge the guy to a title match right there.
That's right.
And you just hit him with a stunner, pin him 1, 2, 3, and you got yourself a belt.
Absolutely.
I'll save this story for another time, but there was I got into an altercation in middle school that resulted in me doing a wrestler's finisher that caused everybody to go nuts.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'll tell it real quick. So
All right.
I was in like 7th or 8th grade, and there was this kid who was really annoying. Now I have a very long fuse. Now this guy just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. I've been watching wrestling for about a year, and I just finally told him to leave me alone. So then he had to smart off at me. I said something back to him. We started getting in each other's faces, and of course, you know how it is on the playground. Everybody gathers around, and I hit him with a diamond cutter.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, I'm sure Wally will love that story when he
Oh
hears
yeah.
it.
Wally did the
And
diamond cutter on somebody at the. He's a video or pictures or video of him at like a
he's posted
talent
a
show.
video, yeah.
Yeah, when he was in high school. That's so awesome.
It's great. Yeah, and people love me for that. But to close us out on this month in video game history, on October 21st, 1998, Wario Land 2 is released for the Game Boy. This was the sequel to Mario Land 3, which featured Wario in his first playable role. Pretty fun game. I haven't played it in a very long time. I remember you can't really die in the game. Like, when you get hit by enemies, it like temporarily affects you. So say if you have like something land on your head, it'll make Wario really flat, so you can walk through like thin passageways. If you get hit by fire, Wario's doused with fire, and you can burn through certain areas. So there's no danger of dying, but it has an interesting aspect to it when it comes to gameplay. It'll be one that I review, at some point down the line.
I was gonna
But
say I
it's a
thought
pretty
you
fun game.
reviewed this before.
Like I said, I haven't played it in a long time.
Hmm.
But the Wario games are pretty good. They do the WarioWare games now that have like the little micro games where you have like 5 seconds to complete an objective that are a lot of fun. But
Yeah.
the traditional platformers with Wario are pretty good too.
They haven't released a Wario game in a while.
No, not. They released a WarioWare game. It might have been for the Wii U, or it might have been the Wii. It was one of those two consoles. But as far as a straight up Wario game, we haven't had one in a while. At least not that I can remember.
Kind of wish I had a Wii U. I went to the Goodwill store the other day. We have this Goodwill mega store here now, like right around the corner from my house, and they had a wall of Wii U games there the other day. And I was like,
Jeez.
man, I wish I had a Wii U. I would have bought every single one of those games. I mean, like an entire library of Wii U games.
There are some good games for the Wii U. It was just really, when it comes down to it, a pointless console.
Yeah, kind of. It's that in between console, which is what the next
Yeah.
console is going to be until Nintendo, gets it right for the next one. It's always kind of a leapfrog effect with Nintendo.
Yeah.
But that's the end of this month of video game history. And before we go into the review, Derek's got some shout outs for us.
Yes, as always, we'd like to shout out our patrons. This month, we like to shout out Axblade07, Daniel Salmon, and Justin Olson. And if you would like to support us on Patreon, you can head over to patreon.com/nerdcaveretro. We have I believe, 3 different tiers. And if we get to the $50 level, we will do an extra episode every month. So if you enjoy the wrestling debates that we've done, the commentaries for Mario Brothers, The Wizard, and several others that we've done, you'll get those as bonus episodes if you help us get to that $50 level at patreon.com/nerdcaveretro.
Every single month we will do those extra episodes. So get us back up there. Spread the word.
Yes.
I picked the spookiest, Halloweeniest music from the soundtrack I could find.
No, it's good stuff. Before I dive into the review, I do want to give a shout out. It's kind of a good segue from Patreon. This game was actually suggested by multiple listeners of the podcast because originally I was going to review Resident Evil 4, but I believe it was AxeBlade07 wrote us on Twitter a couple of weeks ago because I was asking for games to review because I'm not a big horror fan, and he recommended Eternal Darkness: Sanity's Requiem for the GameCube. So I thought, well, I'll look into it. And I looked up, a little bit of gameplay, read a bit about it. I was like, oh, it looks pretty cool. And then Brandon Rutledge recommended it as well. And I remember texting you and was like, I feel like I really need to play this game and review it. If we have multiple listeners suggesting it, I feel like I need to do it.
And it's just one of those games I just never really paid much attention to, but apparently everybody loves it.
Yeah, and that's crazy because, I had a pretty decent GameCube library back in the day, but I never really heard of this game at all. And that, of course, is Eternal Darkness: Sanity's Requiem, which is a psychological horror action adventure video game developed by Silicon Knights and published by Nintendo. Originally planned for the N64, it was switched to the GameCube for development and released on June 24th, 2002. Which soon will be 18 years ago. Think about that one.
Dude, we're about to be in the third decade of this century.
I know. It's insane.
I don't like
it's absolute. No, I don't like it either. While the game features similar gameplay mechanics to that of Resident Evil, it distinguishes itself with unique features, which, to me, this is the thing I want to throw in right off the bat. Now, I haven't completed this game. And that's my one regret, that I haven't had the time to play it, because I would like to fully beat it, but I've made it a decent way into it, and that's because I started playing it a couple of days ago, and within 10 minutes, I was hooked. The story of this game, to me, is unique from a gaming perspective. And basically, to dive a bit into the story of it, it takes place over 4 different locations because the game skips between different time periods and different locations. It starts out in the year 2000 with a character named Alexandra Roivas. She returns to her family estate in Rhode Island after she finds out about her grandfather, Edward, who was her only other living relative, was brutally murdered. 2 weeks after returning, with the local police having gotten nowhere with the investigation, she decides to investigate the mansion for clues and stumbles upon a secret room containing a book bound with human skin called the Tome of Eternal Darkness. Deciding to read it, she finds it contains accounts of various people in the past, beginning with the story of Pius Augustus. From the very beginning of this game, it has that very creepy feel to it. You're in an empty mansion, and you hear this random whispering throughout the mansion as you're exploring. Because I didn't look at any type of walkthrough or anything. Like, I wanted to just dive right in and see what happened. So I explored every room in the mansion, and every now and then you just hear this with a little bit of music behind it. And it scared the crap out of me the first time that it happened. but I felt like it really added to that atmosphere. So right from the get go, it sets a very good tone for what this game is, which I really like. Now, when you find the book, you open it and you start reading the story, and it transitions into a different time period. So you start playing as this character named Pius Augustus, who's a Roman military commander, and he's sent to Persia to locate an artifact. He hears these voices, so he's lured away from the rest of his army, and he gets transported to this underground temple. Once you go through it, you find these three different artifacts that possess the essence of a basically a god called Ancients. You touch one of them, and it doesn't really matter which one you touch, I don't think. But Pius becomes corrupted by the power, and he pledges his allegiance to the Ancient and begins working on summoning basically these beings into the universe. So the other two that you didn't touch are then transported out of Pius's reach. One represents the Ancient that's stronger than Pius, and the other represents an Ancient that's weaker than Pius. Now, once that story's done, then you come back to quote unquote present day, and you find a second page to the book, and that unfolds the story more. And from what I've played of it, the story is, I think, told not in linear order, but I think it's all going to make sense in the end.
Yeah.
It's almost told, it's like those old films that are almost like anthology films,
Yeah.
where it takes place in one single location, but then it tells a bunch of different short stories.
That's cool.
Which to me is very unique when it comes to a game, because I've never really played a game like that before. So from the very get-go, it felt unique, and I was thinking this game could not have been for the Nintendo GameCube. Like, I was thinking it could have been, like, it would have fit on the PS4, or not PS4, but PS2, or, you know, even the original Xbox. But when you think of mature-themed games, you don't think Nintendo.
Yeah.
So the one drawback that I have as far as the actual gameplay is that it feels very sluggish in the beginning, but it's something that you kind of get used to, because the characters initially move very slow, and fighting enemies feels very like hack and slash, which I don't really like. But there is a targeting system that I was able to get used to, where you target, you know, certain aspects. So say like you're fighting a zombie, you can target the arm or the leg or the chest or even the head.
Yeah.
So that adds a little bit more dynamic to it. Now, the cool thing, and this is awesome, the second area that you go into, you get what's called a sanity meter. When a monster sees you, you lose a little bit of your sanity. The more monsters you see, the more you lose. Now, if you quote unquote incapacitate a monster, you can do a command where you basically you do like a almost like a fatality in Mortal Kombat, but not nearly as theatrical.
Yeah.
And you get some of your sanity back. Now, the more you lose, the game actually will start to change, and it's almost like it's affecting the player's sanity as well. It goes from anywhere to when you enter a room, the camera view will be skewed. The game will even look like it goes back to the prologue screen, just in the middle of fighting. Like, say if you pretty much lose your sanity, it does anything from doing a fake blue screen of death to showing the prologue of the game, like when you start it.
Yeah.
The volume will turn itself down. It'll be, you know, like the game will mute itself. It's really creepy.
The more I look at this and kind of read about it a little bit and look at some of the screenshots, like this sounds like it's right up my alley. Like this is
Oh,
the
you
type
would
of
love
game
this
I
game,
like.
Jason.
Oh, I might have
You
to
would
go
love
get that
it.
this weekend.
And I'm not a horror fan by any stretch, but I'm loving this game.
Really? Because
Yes.
this isn't really your type of game, though, is it?
No, it's not. And that's saying a lot, because I'm not really big on, like, it's not really a stealth game, but it's very methodical.
Yeah.
And there
I
are a
just
few
love
games that are
games that
methodical that I like.
I just love games that have like that horror type atmosphere, like really atmospheric games that kind of suck you into the story. That feels kind of claustrophobic, like you're in one setting, like an old castle or something. Like I love those type of games.
One, you would love this because literally in one setting you'll be in, Persia. Then the next you'll be in another temple. Then the next story you're in France in an old church. So there's quite a bit of a variety from various different time periods.
Hmm.
And I feel like this might be me sounding like a broken record because I feel like I say it a lot, but I don't follow through on it. This is a game that I'm going to keep playing because it's that good. Like it's the gameplay still isn't my favorite, but the story is so good that it keeps me engaged. Like I was playing this game up until about 5 minutes before you texted me and said you were ready to do the show.
I think you've got me sold on it. I think I'm gonna go pick up a copy of this weekend. Did you pick up a copy of this at the retro store?
Unfortunately, I haven't been able to find a copy. Like there hasn't been one
Really?
that's available locally, so I had to download it to be able to play it because I wanted to be able to honor the requests from the listeners and play it. But I do want to get my own copy of it because you can find it on eBay as well as on Amazon, I think.
Let me look up on eBay real quick how much a copy runs for. Because if it's relatively cheap, I may see Eternal Darkness.
While you look that up, this was actually very intriguing to me on the Wikipedia page. In 2002, Nintendo and Hypnotic, a film entertainment company, established a filmmaking contest in which contestants submitted ideas that would later be funded into short films if selected. Hypnotic also purchased the rights to produce a film or TV series based on the IP. The contest looked for ideas that evoke the same kind of psychological horror that the game intends to invoke, but the films were not directly based on the Eternal Darkness characters or storylines. And the contest drew over 500 submissions,
Wow.
which is pretty impressive. The more that I play this game, like this could be a badass movie
Hmm.
because I love anthology type stories that have a bunch of stories that are all connected, under one roof, but are told within, a 2 or 2.5 hour time frame.
Yeah.
I just think there's a unique storytelling with that you have the luxury of telling several stories all under one umbrella.
Yeah.
But
Let
did
me
you
see.
find anything on eBay?
Yeah. Roughly, it's gonna run between 30 and 45 bucks for a copy of it. I see some of the buy it nows are around $34.99, $38, $40, and then there's some like really good, complete copies. There's one here for like 95 bucks, but I don't.
Yeah.
Here's one that's complete with everything. It's got some sort of book with it. A couple other things that go with it. Like I can't really tell what that is. Yeah, a couple of different little books with it, and it's you can buy it now for 80 bucks. That's like complete with everything, but you can get one with just the disc for roughly about 40 bucks.
Yeah. As far as awards go, Eternal Darkness won many awards, including the Outstanding Achievement in Character or Story Development Award at the 6th Annual Interactive Achievement Awards presented by the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences in 2003, where it was also nominated Console Game of the Year, Innovation in Console Gaming, and Outstanding Achievement in Art Direction. And another thing I will say is that the graphics, I think, for the GameCube are pretty good. For games of that era, it holds up fairly well. Like even playing it now, the graphics aren't jarring or anything. Like I don't look at it and say, "Oh, that looks bad."
Yeah.
It looks pretty good.
I've noticed that on a lot of GameCube games. The graphics hold up pretty well. We're
Hmm.
starting to get away from the polygonal graphics of the Nintendo 64, PlayStation 1 era, and we were getting into the a bit more textures and stuff like that. So
Yeah. And the recognition that it got as far as, number scores was pretty pretty incredible.
mhm.
GameSpot gave it a 9.4 out of 10, IGN gave it a 9.6, Game Informer 9.5, and Eurogamer 9 out of 10. So like it was, I can't believe that I didn't know about this game back in the day, cuz I mean even during the
I
GameCube
know.
era, like that was when I was falling off of gaming a little bit, but I still played, like your mainstays when it comes to GameCube, and I would even get some of the more obscure stuff, but I never heard of Eternal Darkness up until it was brought up, by AxeBlade07.
Yeah. It says here it was talking about a sequel that was canceled, and then December 2012, Nintendo extended their ownership on the trademark for the fifth time, indicating that the company still has interest in the property. Any chances for a sequel, at least under Silicon Knights, were terminated on May 9th, 2013, after they filed for bankruptcy, closed its office, and sold off its equipment. Nevertheless, Nintendo re registered its trademark on July 29th, 2013, with a new document that indicated that it might be a downloadable game. When asked about this by GameSpot, Nintendo declined to answer.
Remaster. I know we've been saying it for almost every classic game, but you remaster this, you put a fresh coat of paint on it,
Mm-hmm.
and you clean up the gameplay a little bit as far as controls. Because I'd be curious to get your thoughts on that, if you think the controls are as jarring as I did. But you
Mm,
do that, this could be a really cool, like, cult classic type of game.
yeah.
Especially if you want to try and pull in an older demographic, because I feel like Nintendo is still known a bit for being more family friendly.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to remake this game and put it out on the Switch, I think it could do pretty well.
Yeah, give it, like you said, give it a fresh coat of paint, um, tighten up the controls a little bit. Why not?
Yeah. And it's crazy because, from what I have played of this game, it doesn't take place in a big location, but it feels like a big game,
Yeah.
because like I said, it takes place over 4 locations that include an underground temple called the Forbidden City in Persia, a temple in Angkor, Cambodia, the cathedral in Amiens, France, and the Roivas family estate in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
So the traveling between different time periods is really cool, and it's almost like each chapter is a little game in and of itself. And it doesn't take you that long to really complete the objective, but it all builds into something else. Because each objective you make, you see a little bit more of the story, and then you go back to the mansion. And then the cool thing is, when you finish reading the chapter, Alexandra will look up. So say like you complete chapter 1, and the sword that Pius was using, there's a sword just like it that's all of a sudden sitting above the fireplace.
Oh, that's cool.
And then when you're doing the temple in the second area, one of the objectives is you have to light and blow out candles in a certain order
Mm-hmm.
in order for doors to open. When you come back to the mansion, you see that these candles are sitting, almost next to the desk.
That's
Randy
cool.
says, I made it a point to max out my sanity meter to see what happens. It's a really cool effect.
Yeah,
Like, it's a little bit meta in a way, but the way they did it was so clever, especially with like the blue screen of death, going back to the prologue screen, or even showing like a to be continued screen is one of them that I forgot to mention. And it's for like basically a fake sequel. So it's like, oh, your game is over. Get the next one to find out, what goes on next. But it's really just you losing your sanity.
Huh. It says Screw Attack ranked the fake corrupt data sanity effects as the ninth top OMG WTF moment in gaming in 2008.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. For some reason, my Zoom died.
Oh, Well, that
But either
sounds.
way, if you can hear me, then we're good.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, the it's just such a cleverly made game, and I'm kicking myself for not playing this back in like when it was actually out. But
Well,
it's really really good.
it sounds right up my alley. Like this is
Oh,
my type of game. I want to play this.
absolutely, absolutely. As far as like, I feel like I can't really give it a completely fair score because I haven't completed it. But from what I have played of it, I would easily give it a solid 9. I know that's
Okay.
pretty high, but it's just such a good game. The story is great. The sanity meter to me is pretty innovative when it comes to a game like this, and it's just such a great atmosphere.
Well, you've piqued
I
my
really like
interest.
this game.
Definitely piqued my interest. I want to play this now.
You should.
I wish they would
You
put it
should,
out.
and we can do like maybe do an Eternal Darkness revisited
Yeah.
where we both review it.
I wish they would put it out for the Switch. Drink Wally.
Yes, drink. But yeah,
So,
that's my thoughts on Eternal Darkness Sanity's Requiem.
awesome.
Love it.
And that's our last official review for video games for October. Coming up on for our official Halloween episode, Derek and I, along with Joey Image, will be reviewing Halloween 1 and 2, the original 1979 Halloween, and then its sequel. And then we're going to do a part 2 where we talk about Halloween 3, which will be on the Derek Diamond Experience that same week.
Yes. Yeah, and the cool thing is we'll be releasing Nerd Cave Retro on the 30th and my show on the 31st. So you get Halloween Eve and Halloween themed episodes of the both
Man,
podcasts,
that worked out perfect.
which is fantastic. Which, speaking of the Derek Diamond Experience, you've been kind of making a marathon appearance.
That's right.
So last week you joined me to review The Joker, which was a lot of fun. And this week you'll be joining me to review a movie that we both got to see, I think, on the same night, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot,
Yes.
which was super fun.
That was a fun movie and a fun review to do. So please head over to Derek Diamond Experience and check that episode out.
Yep, that'll be coming out this Thursday. If you want to subscribe to the podcast, you can do so on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Stitcher. Just search for the Derek Diamond Experience. And if you want to follow the show on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at D Diamond Podcast. So actually some really good stuff coming up because next week we'll be doing the Halloween 3 review. The week after that, if we're all able to see it, at the same time, we're going to be doing a Terminator roundtable.
Yes.
Which will be great because, dude, Terminator Dark Fate comes out next week.
I know, and it's getting good reviews too. So
I know,
excited.
I'm so excited for it.
So many good movies coming out.
Yeah, I mean, we're about to be in November, but still some good movies. You got Terminator, you got Star Wars, and there's a couple of other ones that. Oh, the new Jumanji I'm looking forward to.
Oh yeah, I love the first one. I thought that movie was gonna just be awful, but I got dragged to see it. I did not want to see that movie. 10 minutes in, and I'm like, this movie's awesome.
It's so funny.
So good. If you haven't seen the Jumanji, I wouldn't even say it's a reboot. It's still technically a sequel to the first movie. The first movie still happens. It's based off the first movie. And if you haven't seen it, just go rent it, or if it's streaming somewhere, watch it. It's the best video game movie of a video game that doesn't exist.
Yes. And with the sequel, like with them bringing in Danny DeVito and Danny Glover, like it can't help but be better.
It's going to be so good. I can't wait to see that.
There was a funny post on The Rock's Instagram. He was voted like one of the coolest dads in Hollywood. And he wrote as the caption, "As a dad to 3 daughters and Kevin Hart, it's such a huge honor to receive this award."
Poor Kevin Hart.
Their dynamic on Instagram is fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, man. Did you see The Rock's return on WWE a few weeks ago?
Oh, on SmackDown? Yeah, I did finally watch the first episode. The Rock hasn't lost a step.
No, he has not.
He's so freaking good.
That was awesome. It's
I
worth it
will.
watching it just for that whole first 15 minutes of the show, just for that.
Yeah, it was really good. I will say, speaking of wrestling, I'll give kind of a random shout out. Like all this wrestling has kind of been in the news a lot with, WWE's NXT show moving to USA. You have AEW that just started. But to me, the best wrestling out there, as far as weekly television, is the new NWA show. It's
Really?
called NWA Power, and it's on YouTube. It's on YouTube and I believe Facebook. New episodes come out every Tuesday at like 5 o'clock. It's an hour long, and they film in like an old studio. It literally looks like you're watching a wrestling show from 1980.
Awesome. That right. I'm so down for that.
You
I'm gonna
should
go.
watch it. It's really good. Like, to be
Yeah.
honest, they tape their shows in Atlanta, and they're doing a next set of tapings in I think mid-December, and I'm thinking about going.
Maybe I'll go with you. I'll meet you there.
Yeah, I mean, the tickets are only like $30,
It's not
and
bad.
they do because they have a pay-per-view on the 14th, which is a Saturday, and then they're doing 2 days worth of tapings where I think they're taping 2 episodes of their show per day, and tickets are only like 20 or $30.
That's not bad. We should do that.
No, I'm totally down.
Hell yeah. I'm
Leave on
down
a
for it.
leave on a Sunday, and heck, we could actually do an in-person episode of this
Oh yeah.
podcast, which hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, we could do that.
No, I take that back. The only one that I think we have done in person was the Wizard commentary,
Mm,
because I drove to your
correct.
house to do it.
Yep. Oh, and I still got to. I'm still working on the live show at the Kraken. I've been so in and out of town the last few days. I haven't had a chance to talk to LB to like get a
Yeah.
definitive night to do it, but we're gonna do it. I just got to talk to him at the Wayward Kraken.
And I will say, once I get the final details done, which are about 90% done, we're going to be hosting a pretty epic film screening here in town next
Yes,
month
that's gonna be awesome.
that I'm really excited for.
Yeah.
I will say this, like, I'm not going to reveal any details, but you'll know. The venue was confirmed today.
Sweet. That's awesome.
It's going to be great.
Oh yeah, we'll
It's going to
let
be
you guys know as soon as we can release the details.
Yeah, I want to get everything like 100% set in stone
Yeah,
before I release anything, but the way it's working out, it's almost going to be like a little festival.
that's awesome. I can't wait for that. That's gonna be so fun.
Yeah,
But
it's going to be
before
great.
we leave tonight, tell everybody what's going on in your neck of the woods before we get out of here.
Really, other than, the stuff I mentioned with the podcast, that's about it. Other than the Parker Syndrome is in the running for um, Best Set Design Award from the Indie X Fest located in Los Angeles. I think the actual award presentation is in late November. But if I find out any notification, whether we have one or not one, I'll let everybody know. But even to be nominated is really cool.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I think I'm up to 7 laurels. It's no survey, but then again, what
Survey's
is?
at like 47 festivals now. It's getting to be absurd at this point.
I've got to, because I want to do something like really cool for everybody. Not if, but when the movie makes it 50.
Yeah. Oh, we
We
got to
got to
do
do some
something.
type of party if we make it to 50.
Yeah, I know we will. It's like we're creeping through the 40s, and we're like, oh, come on, let's get to 50.
Oh, what would be awesome is if, I think it will probably happen before then, but if it makes it to 50 right before our little event that we're planning,
Oh, that'd be so awesome.
the timing would be perfect. But
Yeah.
I should be finding out within the next week or so some more festival notifications. I know I'm going to be in Destin on November 9th at the Kite Film Fest. The Parker Syndrome will be playing there. Hopefully finding out by the end of the month if I get into the Tampa Bay Underground Film Festival. That'll be in early December. If I get accepted to that, I'll go to it.
Awesome.
Yeah, so just kind of doing a wait and see approach. I'm not applying to as many, mostly because I'm trying to save money for the holidays.
Yeah.
but still some good stuff in the works. And then, slowly working on my next project, which hopefully I'll get to do sometime early next year.
Yeah, I'm still working on a few of mine. It's hard to get stuff done. Like once you get that first one done, it's like trying to get the second one. It's like, all right, where do I start now again from the beginning?
Well, and with the Parker syndrome, I had at least kind of a base to go off of, but this what I'm doing is completely from scratch.
Yeah.
So it's completely different for me.
As far as I go, go listen to Falls from Grace on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, wherever you can listen to music. Go check out our new EP, Thelma. And if you're in the anywhere near the Biloxi, Mississippi area, and you want to go to the Sounds Fall Ball on November 16th, starts at 6 p.m. We're gonna have five bands. We're going to have food trucks. We're going to have Budweiser there. Bang energy drinks. There's going to be food, drinks, bands. It's going to be awesome. So you can get tickets right now for $15 at thesound228.com and follow the links to the I think it's the I forgot the name of the ticket company. But I do have tickets to sell on my person. So if you live anywhere near the Biloxi area and you want to pick up tickets from me personally, just get a hold of me on Twitter at JFunktastic and just message me. And my DMs are open, and you can just meet me somewhere, and the tickets will be $15 cash money.
To use a millennial phrase, just slide into the DMs and
That's
get those
right.
tickets.
Slide into my DMs. Give me that money.
That's great.
But that's it for tonight. Are we ready to get out of here?
I believe so.
It's a long show. We hope you guys like this one. Play our music here. If you would like to email us, you can email us at nerdcaveretro@gmail.com. We are at nerdcaveretro.com. We're on Instagram and Twitter at nerdcaveretro, individually at jfunktastic and at Derek_Diamond. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/nerdcaveretro or on Patreon at patreon.com/nerdcaveretro. And of course, leave us a review wherever fine podcasts are sold. So Derek, please tell them what it's all about.
Master Blaster runs Bada Town.
Yes.
Master Blaster runs Bartertown.
You blew it!
That was a fun show.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff.
Ooh, that was a long one.
Yeah.
My butt's
How long do we
getting
run?
numb. Hour and let me look up the time real quick. 1 hour, 16 minutes, and 28 seconds.
Nice.
That is 152, 53.
Should be 153 because I think I'm back to odd numbered episodes.
Okay. All right, go ahead and name that before I forget. But thank you to our viewers tonight and on Twitch, and thank you for Randy Bailey for joining us in the chat room.
Yes.
And we will. We're not going to be here next week because we're going to pre-record the Halloween episodes, but we will be back. I think. No, we'll be back in 3 weeks because the week after next, I have a comedy showcase in Mobile, and I won't be here Tuesday night, so we're going to pre-record that episode as well. So the next live show will be, like November 12th or something like that?
Somewhere along those lines.
Yeah. So it'll be like 3 weeks from now, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 12th.
We'll let everyone know.
Yeah, November 12th, we'll be back to a live episode. So we hope you guys enjoyed tonight, and thank you for joining us, and we will see you guys in 3 weeks. Goodbye.